Good Sunday evening, good peoples. It's Bruce with Targeted Wealth Creation back at ya with mining, precious metals miners. All right, we also have China news, right? Looking good, looking like a deal is being done and the market's already reacting. So obviously, China's a huge trade partner. They need the deal as bad as we do. It's been a standoff, but I think some headway has been made. Now, let me tell you what the markets are reacting. So I expect the indexes to be up. They already are in the early market. You know, we got a long ways to go before the market opens, but that's positive. Gold is down, so you may see some better buys. Doesn't phase me, 3,100 gold, 3,000 gold. I mean, we're in the mid to high 32s, but and you don't know how this plays out. Is it buy the rumor, sell the news? So the rumor is a strong rumor. They basically said, we've worked out a deal. We're going to give you all the details tomorrow. So I suspect the market will open positive, and if they say anything on Monday that's not fitting, then the market will react back. And that's just the world we live in and the markets we live in. All right. So, what I've been kind of promising you is I've been playing around with my database quite a bit. And what do I mean by database? I've showed it in the past, but just like I do sometimes with, although I only have about 150 of the ETFs that pay, I call them high yield or really yielding ETFs. So I can certain sort by category. Is it an index? Is it, the MAG? Is it Russell? Is it, it's semiconductors, it's specific. Is it gold? Is it commodities? Is it uranium? And do that. Well, what I worked on, because as you guys all know in the past, I basically retired after the dot-com bubble about 9, 10 years later, and I was really working to build my wealth. And I went through a divorce. I got half the house value and all that, even though it was my down payment and I paid. I won't get into all the personal stuff. We all know that divorces are ugly in the US, and I was in the state of California. I sold some prior rental properties and roll that money into one big down payment on a beautiful house in Marbella in South Orange County on the golf course on a hole. The backyard was the putting green for the hole there. So very pleased with the house, but later on divorced, and out goes half of all the money made in that house and I put into it. So it was part of my own dealings that I didn't really set myself up well. I should have kept that money really separate, but I didn't. Life is such. So anyway, I really focused in that decade of the 2000s on how am I going to build the wealth so in my mid to late 50s I can retire, because I had built wealth and then lost wealth. And I sort of looked after the dot-com bust, because I was counting on my stock and the companies that I owned. And then when the NASDAQ crashed, I had a lot of cheap stock in the company I worked for, which was one of the four horsemen. And just, the stock went crazy, 3, 4, 500% in the time that I was there. And I had all these stock options and I had stock. And then literally with the dot-com bust over the next year, that stock. So around 2001, I was looking like, how can I recover? Where should my money be? The dot-com bubble was real. It happened. It's not going to come right back. Dot-com's not going to come back at all. And is it picking stocks, or are there some sectors? And that's when I looked at the commodities, read and studied, and really got into gold, silver, um, platinum, oil. Didn't really ever get in uranium. Now I'm in uranium, but uranium didn't come along until later in that 2007 to 2010 cycle when oil was running. So now, having and I made a lot of money. I literally just went out and started buying the big cap gold mining companies. Then I understood the juniors and the mid caps, and then on my large ones, the Newmonts and the Barricks and some other names escape me at the moment. But literally every time they dipped down, I sold puts. Most of the time I collected the premium. Once in a while I got put to me, but I always got it at cheaper than what the price I collected on the premium on the put. So literally that worked forever until 2008 when it didn't work. But by then I was 8x my wealth just running those cycles. And generally I didn't sell out. I just accumulated more because I knew every dip, kind of the way we've been for 12 years on the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. But those times will come to an end, such as in metals they did. And that decade of 2000 to 2011, or better yet, 2001 to 2011, gold and precious metal miners outperformed by far the SPY or the S&P 500. So that's what happens. You have decade cycles, and we are now entering that cycle, right? Gold has been 2 years up now, much better than the Dow and the NASDAQ and all that over the last 18 months in gold. Have the miners outperformed? Not really. So they've woken up. They're starting to run. And what happens in the cycle is the large caps move first because the investment guys can't put money in. If you're a big hedge fund or a big, fidelity thing that can get selected on your 401k, they can't go out and invest in penny stocks, penny miners, exploration guys. If you bought 20 of them, you may have two that 50x over this next decade, but you may have a few that go bust and a few that only go up one or two times. Whereas if you buy a Barrick GOLD, or you buy a Newmont NEM, or you buy a Nico Eagle, AEM, you're probably going to get 4x your money, maybe 5x in the next 5 years. I was targeting it 2030 to 2032, so it's 5 years if you target 2030. So many of these miners, junior, mid caps, so junior is just meaning they're not the large cap. Um, these guys are going to go up anywhere from 8x to 100x. Just, and you say, how can something go up 100x? Well, it discovers, today it's got an $8 million budget. It raised capital. It's drilling. Okay. It's seen some promising things on the drill bit, but it hasn't connected the dots. It got a little over here, it got a little over there, but is it continuous? How deep does it go? Et cetera, and the mining knowledge. So these things, and when they shore that stuff up, all of a sudden, they're up 10, 15, 20 times. Then do they actually want to build a mine, or do they want to sell out into a larger mid cap, or is Newmont or Barrick or a Nikio Eagle come knocking on the door? And sometimes you find a little explorer, you've been in them, you got a triple, and you're all excited because you think they're going to go up, another 10 to 20 times from here. And a big guy comes along and buys them early. Yeah, you get another 35, 40%, you know, but it's frustrating because you identified them, you were right, the big guys found them, and you didn't get the benefit. So you can't just go buy Newmont because they bought some little junior company that's discovery is going to be huge. It just means they have the capital to put the mine in place, right? So they're risk adverse to that, especially if it's in a safe geography. All right, guys, so I'm about to take you into some names. A warning: all of these have some risk. If you want a safe bet, go buy AEM, go buy Newmont, hold it for 5 years, and you get 3x minimum your money. Okay. And that's the truth. Okay. Sure, I could be wrong, but do I think I am? No, not at all. I just sold a bunch of puts, leap puts out to January in Newmont. Newmont 50 puts and collected, $4.50. I'm up on it now already like 15, 18%, but I'm not playing it. I'm playing it there to collect it. If Newmont were to dip to 49.50 come January, I got $4.50. I'll gladly take those shares. But the plan was just to get more premium. Same thing I did in the 2000 decade. All right. So what am I talking to you about now? I'm talking to you about miners you could potentially buy now. Now, let's jump to one of the most, to me, one of the most exciting. So McEwen, the owner of McEwen, he's an industry. Here's my notes: legendary CEO and industry titan. Why? Because the guy's been around, been there, done it, run companies. Mux is an interesting one. Let me get you the chart. So this thing will drive you nuts, right? You're like, what the heck's it doing? I like this zoom in, but I didn't get the choice here in big charts to get exactly what I wanted. Um, but I see these runs where it just about got to 100. This one actually touched 100. It doesn't look like it there, or if it did, it's so close. Let me see if the decade gets me there. This is the first time it ran up. Or sorry, the second time. Obviously, metals peaked as far as gold and silver prices in 2011. So, in order to really get that one, I got to use all data. I should grab another charting service here. I've got several. Um, so, what happened? You have these here, right? And actually, you have three. So, here's the 11 one. Um, and then here is the 16. Although I swear the 16 was showing up at like 100. Anyway, it's easy to see that when they get their act together, which they are as far as the company goes, they already have their act together. But the industry hasn't woken up to the benefit, right? They're just drilling, they're adding. So this guy is a proven track record, the industry titan. I own some. I've owned it for a long time. I'm a little bit ahead now, but it's got massive upside. So it simply goes back. I mean, think about this. Gold was at 1950, 1911, I think, in August of was it August or was it April? I forget. I think silver peaked late and ran in August 2011. I think I had that right, and I think gold peaked in April. They could have flipped. It could be the opposite, but usually silver comes roaring up, which it did. Gold was already up pretty substantial. Gold was at 1,000 at the beginning of 2008. Gold went down to 700 and then roared back to like 1921, 1911 in the year of 2011. Right now, let's not worry about the month. Where was Mux at that time? Close to $100. Okay. All based on all gold and the euphoria. Everybody was in it. Well, that's because Bitcoin had started, but Bitcoin takes some of that money, the digital gold and the Bitcoin, the younger generation, but there's still a lot of old money and big cap money that will buy this like crazy. So here's another strategy. You don't have to go out and buy it now. Just watch it on a chart. After it clears about 15-ish, likely in early 2026, because I have from good insider sources and just market knowledge and people I follow and read and listen to, this mining thing, gold's been fits and starts. We've run to 3,500. I think we could go to 3,000, but probably 3,150 in this next pullback. But anything can happen geopolitically in the world, and we just go right to 3,800. But I see us at 5,000 probably by 2027. 2026, we could be at 4,000 or 4,500. So we need one more boost to get these smaller cap miners just running like crazy. So that could be a strategy with Muck. Watch it. if it breaks 15, it hasn't been there in years, right? If you go back, where's my chart? Let's just go back and do a 5-year chart. I don't think we've seen that in MUX. I have no idea why this chart is reacting like that. Yeah, okay. At 21, it was $15. So once it goes back and breaks, a little harder to see on the decade chart, because all of a sudden you got 100 at play there. Or sorry, you got 50 was the 2016. And this wasn't a big run in gold. Gold got to the 1911, 1921, whatever the top number in 2011. And then around 2015, it bottomed at a little bit under $1,000. Late 2015, the miners were just beaten down to nothing. And all of a sudden, gold moved up a little bit off that 1,000 bottom, and the miners shot up. I remember GDX was like up 100% in 4 months. It's like, and that can happen. And then look, now this is just this chart. So Mux followed kind of what a lot of the miners, although if you go back and you look at the really good ones, the Newmonts and look at AEM, it's much higher. So the miners that have really gotten their act together and done great things have overcome this sentiment, and they're back at the levels of 2016. Well, that's nothing compared to the levels of 2000. And even on this chart, that's when it's truly over 100. This is below 50. So again, if I go to all data, which I need to do in order to get 2011, because that's over 14 years. Now you see the $100. And then you go back here in the 60s. Is that, yeah, and back in the 80s here. So the idea is Mux hasn't lost its juice. It's just one of those things that's a quality company with a quality executive and management team. They're just not particularly in favor at the moment. Again, that can all change quickly. So enough on that. Now, I own 90% of all of these. I don't own any thesis. I'm strongly considering it. I own Abra. I don't own Onyx. I own Mux. I own Discovery. I own Vissel. I own Go Go Go. I always call it Go Go Go, but it Go Gold. I own Goliath Resources and I own Oseco. I owned these a long time. And Abra I've owned a good year and a half. So I'm up on all of these, and they've done pretty well. I'm going to show you the charts in a minute. And I put a market top price. It's a swag, right? It's a wag. It's a wild ass guess. They could be 3 times the price. They could be half to 75% of my top price. But guaranteed, if the metals do what I think they're going to do, then it will not be an issue that these things are multitudes higher. Always hard to know, right? And you say why? Well, they're drilling, they're finding silver. By the way, silver is going to pass gold momentous. If you look at the ratio today and you say gold is 100 times the value of silver right now. Right? All you got to do is go out and look at the current spot price and you see it, right? In silver, it's in the low 30s, and in gold, it's in the low 3,000. So you got 100 to 1. That'll probably get back to 30 to 1. So that means you got a 3 to 4x silver just right there, raw silver. Now you get your miners and you get all that momentum, and your average silver plays could go up 10, 15%, and some of your little explorers that find a bunch of silver can go up 50 and 100. So that's how the game works. Is there risk? And so, what are some of my rules, guys? Always say this beforehand: never, never, never put in a market order, only limit buys. These are small, sometimes illiquid. When you get down in 74 cents and I tried to eliminate, I had some that were like 5 cents. I don't want you playing those. Okay, I don't want you buying one. They haven't really got the liquidity yet. But all of these, when they have these five over the counter symbols, I mean, this one's pretty solid, Gotrif, you know. I add to it. I don't sell any. I plan to buy thesis. So I put a market cap and then I ran the percentage over here, right? And said, what's it likely to go to? I owe one here for Onyx. But I will drill down. Hit me in the questionnaire. And guys, go out to the web pages. All these companies have websites. I listed the American symbol. If you any Canadians listening, it's easier to buy on the TSE or the Venture, and you can find those symbols. I have them all. Actually, it's more work. Like TLO is Telon Minerals. I'll get into this whole category down here, critical minerals. I'm not discussing it yet. Let's stay up here. All right. So I could give you more comments on why I like it. Most of these plays all are in safe jurisdictions. These are in US or in Canada. And these are critical mineral plays on Trump's deregulation and fast track of critical minerals, anywhere from nickel to coppers to, all those names you can't even pronounce, right? The ones that rare earth metals, the ones that China doesn't want to sell us and are on the embargo list, let alone it's not like they're tariffed. They're just saying, hey, you can't buy them. Because they're weapons. You need them for, you need them for electric cars. Those you need. Lithium, copper, silver. But these really rare earths and critical minerals, like we signed the deal with Ukraine, which they're over there. We have a little bit in the U.S., but with past governments, period, it's been very difficult because the green weenies don't want you to do anything. Now, look, I'm not against environmental protection. I don't think people died with some of these crazy kinds of things that power companies and other people have done and put into the water. So, but sometimes it's just for the sake of being a wacko. I'll tell you what would change all that. You give me anybody that's on the green side, and when it comes into a cold climate, when all the power goes off on the grid, solar doesn't work because the sun ain't shining, it's snowing like crazy, right? The windmills, because the wind ain't blowing, right? Even if it blows, the motors are frozen, right? They got too much ice on them. We've seen all that. So it always comes back to gas, natural gas. Uranium's the most efficient on the energy side. So sometimes you just have to have this stuff. And all of a sudden that guy that's, father has got a life support system at home and the power goes out, all of a sudden they change their tune. Or the people that are on the green side of things that are flying around in their private jets, right? It's you start to look at it and go, it's really about money for them. Are they going to write a book or what are they going to do? Do they really believe in it for themselves? No, but they want to tell everybody else what to do. All right, enough of my soapbox, guys. So I've given you before my top five mining stocks. Nothing changes. Those are almost entirely safe, although one of them is a small um, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Where they collect money from other royalty. So it's a royalty stream. But go back and look at that video, my top five miners for 2025. These are important plays. You can even wait till the end of the year. Just watch these guys because I'm telling you now, don't blame me if they're double what they are now. You can blame me if you bought it now and it goes down 50% while it's waiting for this real momentum in 2026. But I guarantee you, you will more than make that up. So just put some stink bids in, right? Just like in this sell off, if the tariff news is really good news and gold gets knocked down $150 instead of $60, maybe you can get these at 10, 15% of a discount. So don't be afraid to put GTC orders and watch them, but never, never a market order. Even in these guys that are, $7, don't put a market order because they're not that, the volume is not that high. All right, guys. Let me go over these a little bit, and then I'm going to show you my database, which tells me some of these, and some of these don't even show up on the database. It's just my own research and knowledge and things that I do. But I'm telling you, that database, when I look at 1 month and 3 month, is just extremely powerful. All right, guys. So, what are these? This is where the U.S. environment and its climate says we need critical minerals. We need minerals that support electrification of cars and our grid and all kinds of things. So anybody that we want to fast track them as long as they're not hazardous or something. I mean, nobody's going to fast track something that's going to kill, 5 million people in that area because they're mining in the middle of a suburban town. But you know what I mean. They're going to fast track it because there's nothing wrong with it. Just like the last administration shut down drilling almost to the extent of just no drilling, period. So a lot of big oil companies said, well, we'll just drill out in the ocean outside the US and we'll drill near other countries. And some of them just stopped drilling at all. And in order to cure low prices like we have in oil, eventually low prices cure low prices, right? And drive it back up because all of a sudden people are consuming more. If oil were to go to $20, a lot of the producers can't make money at 20. Many can, but some can't. And then all of a sudden, the consumption would go up like crazy. The poor countries would do more things, right? And all of a sudden, that's what happens in the commodity cycle. It always fixes itself, and it always changes over time. Um, all right, let's take a look at the database that I was talking about. All right, here's an example. There's over 710 entries in this database. It'll probably be 800 by the time I'm done. I noticed I don't have a lot of the little small copper plays. So what I do is I filter this and then I create filter views. So right now I'm looking at 3 months gain. So I got not applicable. Now, why is that? Not applicable means they're illiquid. They don't have enough. They don't really have a day. Like some of these don't have any volume on a particular day. Now, look, many of these are big enough. It's not an issue at all. But there's some small guys. They don't trade every single day, right? Maybe they got 5,000 shares one day, and maybe another day they don't trade any shares. So that makes it, where there's, no data. So let's go in. And so when I sort on 3 month, you still get to see the 1 month column. All right, let me go over this for you for a second. I squeezed this in. But basically, you have your company name, then you have your locale. Where do they mine? Where are their mines? So I'll say various if they've got like 5 countries or more, really 4 or more. And a lot of times they're a single country. But many times they're like Canada and US. They're like USA and Mexico, or they're Canada and Mexico, right? And sometimes if they've got 80% of all their production coming out of Canada and they got a little bit in Australia, I'll just list Canada. I won't list Australia. So just giving you some background. In order for you to see everything over here right now, if I drag this, you'll see what I'm talking about. Canada, Chile, USA, Argentina, right? Canada, US. So I want to keep this smaller, right? So you can just see it all in one view for right now. So then I give a symbol for the Canadians. And once in a while, you have a stock, they don't yet have an OTC or pink sheets, right? But over here, I track that symbol. So this says the 3 month gain if you're looking at, Zodiac. Well, sorry, these are NA. So we want to start looking over here. The first one to show up is Onyx. I showed you Onyx. All right. 400% 3 month gain, right? It was 17 cents 3 months ago. 1 month ago, it was 31 cents. And now it's 85 cents. What is it? It's a junior project generator. What's a project generator? Basically, an explorer, somebody that's gone out. Maybe they've already done some drilling in an area and raised some capital. They got some results and they need to drill more, or they saw some really good results and the stock moved up and they're drilling more, right? So, and then eventually they become a late stage developer if they're successful. So a project generator just means, and sometimes these guys blow up from 5 cents to $3. They're a late stage developer and they get bought out, right? This is a near term producer. Okay, that's what these all have different meanings. Late stage developer, near term producer. If there's a P on the end, they're producing or very close to producing, right? And I have about 6 or 7, and I could put a legend, but I know them all. Okay, so here's Onyx, 400% return, 1 month, 174% return. Not a little 1 cent to 2 cent, which I have those occasionally, and I don't put much stake in them, right? That's not what you want. And over here, the 3 month is 336. Interesting. So what happens? Usually the volume in the USA on the pink sheets is smaller than the volume over here. So that, but they're at least showing, if this shows 400% and this shows minus 10%, something's really wrong. Okay. So this gets your attention enough to where I then go get a chart and I look at it and I say, what's going on? Right. And I don't know if I have Onyx up here right at the moment. I know I got it, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'll go to Discovery is the next one. But go look at the chart, right? All you got to do is do ONXGF or CA colon. Well, it depends on your charting service. If you want the venture ONYX in Canada and over here ONYGF. But it's cents, right? So it was 17 cents 3 months ago. 1 month ago it was 31 cents. It's now 85 cents. Obviously they've had great drilling results, right? Get your attention. This thing could go on and be a $20 stock eventually, right? Look at this one, 216%, but the 1 month. So in 3 months, this thing is really moved from 19 cents to 6 cents. And look at 6 months ago, it was 6 cents. So all of a sudden in 3 months, it woke up. But even in the last month, it's gone from 14 to 19. And what did we get over here in the 3 month gain? I know some of you are going to say, well, Bruce, why don't you put the 1 month? Because you know what? Most of my audience is US and abroad. And if you're Canadian or even somewhere, some of the miners that do well are Australian, right? And I list it over here or on the London. I will show you wherever it's trading. Once in a while, there isn't a US symbol. It's only in London or it's only in Australia or it's only in Canada. All right, guys. So that's the power of this by doing these short-term moves, right? And then let's say I only want to look at major. If I go into the category major, then I'm only going to look at the biggest gold mining companies and silver mining companies in the universe. And there's like 40 of them or 30 of them. And, majors can be the biggest. The largest gold mining company in the world is Newmont. They made an acquisition a year or two ago and they passed Barrick. Okay. So Newmont's one, Barrick's two, Anikio. Well, actually, Barrick might even be three. That'll be interesting to see right now which one's bigger, Barrick or AEM. But I think Newmont is one. I think Barrick is two. And I think Anikio Eagle is three. So they're massive, right? But I like AEM the best almost of all of them. And somebody wrote me, Bruce, though you said you like AEM the best. Would you not buy Barrick? Warren Buffett just went into Barrick. You know what my answer on that was? Because he buys value. And he's not necessarily wrong. He's just buying it saying it's so beaten down. Why is Barrick, the symbol, guys, is GOLD, ironically? Why is it beaten down? Because it's in like four continents, and it's Cote d'Ivory, and it's in the of Congo, and a Democratic Republic of Congo, and I guess there's another bad, even worse, Republic of Congo. So go look that up. I discovered that when I was doing some research before. But the bottom line is it's got some questionable jurisdictions of where they haven't done it to Barrick, but some of the areas they're mining in, they've just taken mines away and blockaded other companies, and they're in courts, which is an 8-year battle. But they don't really want to do that to Barrick. But if there's revolt in the country, they don't give a shit that it's Barrick. The bad guys will do really bad things. So understand that I don't think Warren Buffett is wrong. I just like the management team of AEM, and go look at a chart of those two. And he's probably just saying, I want to be safer because it's so beaten down. It's not going to retrace 50% from where it's at. It may not go up as high as AEM will, but if the market gets beaten down or turns against gold for a down cycle, AEM, who's done 100% over the last year, is going to pull back maybe 50%, and maybe Barrick only pulls back 20. So there's some things to be said of buying value. That's why I wrote the puts. Honestly, I probably could have done it on Barrick, but I did it on Newmont because Newmont should be valued a lot higher. Some of these analysts are just so biased. This has been a beaten down sector. So AEM comes out and just kills their earnings, and it sells off a little bit. It reminds me of Pulte, or sorry, really Palantir. Pulte just is the benefactor of Palantir. But you noticed in this market with this surge and stuff that it looks like everything's going to jump some on Monday. All right, this is getting long in the truth, guys. But hopefully you'll understand so many things to think about here. And there really are. I learned so much in that decade that I traded and invested and made a lot of money. And I've got that bug in 2020 when silver woke up and we were coming out of COVID. I was buying these little miners like crazy. Well, half the miners I bought over the 2021 and 2022 went down 50%. You know what I do? I hold them. And now that we've gotten closer to where we're breaking out, my Abra Silver, I was down on it. I'm up am I up 80% or something on Abra? But what I do is when I see it rising, I start buying more and more. Um, so you gotta, but don't be afraid. I've made this mistake. If you get a little junior, a little explorer, and it goes up 400 or 500%, it may go up 20 times and you're up 4 or 5. Take a little profit. Take 15%, 20% off. You basically got your money. Now you're playing with house money. You're running on money you've made. You've already gotten your investment back. And I've not done that a couple times and regretted that. All right, guys. But in general, this is like gold. I mean, you don't have to buy meme crypto when you can do this stuff, guys. I mean, you can still buy. I love crypto itself. I love BTC. All right. So there's one gold mining group, another fabulous company. See, here's Leviton. It's trading in Canada, but let's see here. I just list Australia. Yeah. All right, guys. So, what else do you want to see? What sticks out? Euro Sun Mining in Romania, of all places, right? 100. I mean, think about this. What kind of stuff are you getting? What kind of returns do you get in 3 months or even a 1 month gain? Look at Botero, Colombia. Colombia is a great mining area, pretty stable country. I mean, certainly, they don't confiscate mines in general unless, you have another situation like they did. Oh, that's not the one. Uh, yeah, that one has a 3 month gain, but doesn't have 100% gain. Almaden Minerals, this is a good company, a solid company. So your 1 month gain is 55. Your 1 month gain over here was 100%, and over in the Canadian 70 or 90%. Late stage developer. That tells you something. Blue Lagoon, love, love, love this one. Near term producer. They may just get bought out, guys. 27 cents 3 months ago, 37 cents a month ago, and now 57 cents. Okay. BLAGF. And they went from 19 cents to 27 cents to 40 cents. So, what are they doing? They're shoring up their resources. They're showing with the turning drill that they have minerals in the ground, and that's worth something to other people. The metals have risen so high, guys, and oil is still dirt cheap historically over the last 5 or 10 years. I mean, it's not where it was at COVID when it theoretically went to zero. All right, Dryden Gold, another one, 45% in 1 month, 83 and 100%, right? This one, K2 Gold. It's been on my radar for a long time and I never bought it. My mistake on that one. This goes on. Discovery was on my list over there. Canada, 79% 3 month gain, 78% on the Canadian symbol, right? Mid tier producer. These guys produce already. So your upside is not 50x unless they have a large territory and they're only mining what they've found and they're drilling contiguously or they're drilling deeper to see how big they go, which is not uncommon. That's so the minute they are producing, it's safer than just a project generator. May not be it may not be 100 bagger. Look at this Lundin Gold, the Lundin family. Go out and listen to Rick Rule, one of the sharpest, smartest guys in mining and natural resources. I really need to get him on and have an interview with him now that I'm covering mining greater. He loves to do interviews. The guy's so smart. Now, they're in Ecuador right now. But the Lundin family, Rick talks about knowing them for 50 years. These guys are mining legends, a bit like McEwen. Only they got a bigger family, and their family's all involved in the minings. And I'm not sure that's true with McEwen himself. Lug DF, it's a major. It's up 75% in the last 3 months. 72, 93, and 75. That validated. A month alone, it's up 37. Because people are waking up to these higher gold prices. I mean, do you know what Newmont and AEM, we could go down to 3,000 gold and go back to 35, but if we go to 4 and 4,500, you're probably going to get another 1.5 on AEM, maybe on Newmont, likely on Newmont, and probably on gold, GOLD, Barrick, I should say. So, guys, I mean, I could just go on and on and on here about all these things. So, don't be afraid to hit me up and say, could you focus on one? Right? I will say this, understand that silver is going to outperform gold. And it always does in the mid to late stages. We're still in the early innings, but it's so beaten down, right? Name me an asset, a global asset that people do utilize. By the way, guys, nobody uses gold for much. It got used in dentistry, right? I've got a gold crown. But in general, gold, little tiny bits of gold, but it's so expensive, it doesn't get used in industry. Silver gets used in solar panels, it gets used in Tomahawk missiles, it gets used in healthcare. Silver has so many industrial metals, and there's a 3 year deficit. If silver wasn't manipulated, and I mean manipulated by paper trades and the CFTC and all of that. I mean, it's just hypocrisy. JP Morgan and some of the other big banks have been selling short silver contracts and flooding the market and keeping down physical silver. They know that at one point they won't be able to do that. And then the CFTC will come in and go, yep, we're fining you 15 million. Well, you know what? They made 700 million and hurt a lot of small and even savvy people along the way. I mean, it's just like the Canadian market and their venture and some of that. They have some lax shorting rules up there. And some of these big hedge funds and smart hedge funds, I don't know if they're big, but they're smart. And they go in and they play both sides. And, there's just, I mean, it's not exactly Nancy Pelosi trading on the inside, but it's clearly manipulation. And look, guys, I know insider trading in the U.S. is on both sides of the House, Republican and Democrat. They do need to put a stop to that. It's very hard to completely monitor, but shame on them. I mean, you see it in these new people. You see these congressperson on both sides of the aisle, but lately it seems to be black women, and I have nothing against color or any of that. But all of a sudden, the most outspoken ones, own like 9 houses and they're worth $40 million, and they just got out of law school 4 years ago and they became a congressperson. Number one, why are we electing such young, inexperienced people? And number two, why do we let these people make all this wealth? It's the nature of our political system and the payola and all of the crap. And I'm not even talking. Don't write into me and tell me, Trump did this or Biden did this. I don't care. I don't want to pick a side. I just want America to be great again. I don't care which president makes us. I just want it that way. And I don't want to hear political comments because I'm not going to make them. All right, guys. So there's just tons of stuff. I always love to see it when I see a silver company in here. And I'm still scrolling down. There's hundreds of these things. Let's see it. Sitka. It's another one that's done fabulous lately and been in the news. You'll find some YouTube videos once in a while on some of these. Let me see if something else pops up. Look at there's a Finland. Sometimes you see them. Sweden, Finland, the Nordic country, Mexican gold mining. Now that's in a 3 month gain is 60%. That's because it's 5 cents. And even over here, it's 6 cents and 5 cents. So when you get very illiquid like that, it doesn't hold up. Klondike in Canada, it's a great location, a great mine, right? Or a great mining entity. Mid-tier producers, two of them, guys. 61% on the 3 month. So now they've peaked, right? The 1 month isn't really showing anything to speak of. Over here, it's down 3.5%. Here, it's 51 to 55. It's still up over here. Santa Cruz Silver. I own some Santa Cruz Silver. SCZMF. It's one of those ones that I bought way back in 2020 and it was high and it went down and I held on and now I'm ahead of the game, but not that much. I think it's got huge upside. I don't own Hochschild, but that's in Argentina. Look, it's only traded on the London. Oh, okay, we do have an OTC, and it's a mid-tier producer. That's why you see the prices, the dollar prices, right? Look at it, it's $290 on the London exchange. It's only $3 on the HCDDDF. So take a look. Look into that. Guys, this goes on and on and on. All right, I'm not going to belabor it anymore. Hit me up with what you want. Let me go back and show you what I've got here. There's Discovery. Vizsla, the billionaire up there in Canada, is a big investor in Vizsla and in many early silver companies. So I think Vizsla, at $2 has a 20 up. Could it be a $50 price? Sure. Right. Go Gold. I've seen other YouTubers promote Go Gold. I've owned it for 4 years. The only one I don't own, I think, is Thesis here. Well, Seco, fabulous production company, right? That's why you see 24. That's why I only have about $100 target. Just on the gold rise alone, it's probably got a 4x. So if you ask me out of any of these stocks, what's the safest stock to buy? By far, OR is the safest, but it's also the lowest multiple. I didn't put a multiple on this guy. I probably should. I'd probably put 20 on this just to follow suit because the upside's so big. And on Discovery Silver, that's probably a 15. With silver, you never know. It could be even massively higher. So again, safety, you want safe, go buy AEM. You want safe, go buy Osisco. Newmont would be safe. Now, that doesn't mean they're never going to pull back. You could run out and buy AEM at $117 and have it be 96 in a week or two. But then again, it's probably going to be 150. It's probably going to be 200 within 18 months. So pretty safe in my opinion. All right, guys, this is Bruce with Targeted Wealth Creation. Have a great rest of your weekend. I've been not getting this out. And you can see when I get in the amount of analysis, I have a lot of info. I was about to say, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. But if you guys want the data, you can go pull it out. But I have it in other places. I just didn't want to load it in my database because right now I got it all in Google Sheets and it extracts and pulls all the data I want. And all of a sudden, if I got big images and I have, what's their market cap and, how many ounces have they produced, what's their debt levels, I have all that data and I can talk about it. And you can say to me, hey, Bruce, can you include so and so and do a deep dive on this miner? I'll do that for you guys. If I get enough people saying, give me a deep dive on, 5 stocks, I'll do that. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Bye for now.